In 1964, a psychiatrist at the University of Colorado found himself standing in front of something that science had no words to describe. Before him was a drunk, unemployed man with no degree, no credentials, no reputation, just a hotel bellhop from Chicago. And this man claimed he could photograph his own thoughts. Dr. Jule Eisenbud was a serious professional, a skeptic, a man trained to spot deception. But what happened in the weeks that followed would change his life entirely and open one of the most disturbing questions in the history of modern science. Stay until the end of this video, because what you're about to discover about Ted Serios isn't just the story of a man with impossible powers. It's the story of evidence that no one could destroy and no one could explain. His full name was Theodore Judd Serios. Born in Chicago in 1918, the son of immigrants, he spent his life as a bellhop at the Conrad Hilton Hotel, carrying luggage, serving guests, living at the edges of everything the world considered important. He drank heavily. He had no stable family, no reputation to protect. He was, in every sense, the last person you would expect to find at the center of a scientific experiment that would shake American psychiatry. But Ted Serios had something no one could explain. Sometime in the early 1960s, he discovered, or simply noticed, that he could produce images on photographic film using nothing but his mind. This wasn't stage magic. It wasn't sleight of hand. He would pick up a Polaroid camera, stare into the lens, concentrate on something he himself couldn't name, and when the shutter fired, the photograph would reveal an image that wasn't in the room, wasn't in the street, wasn't anywhere, except inside the mind of Ted Serios. The first people to witness it had no words. Word reached Dr. Eisenbud through a winding path, through researchers from the Illinois Society for Psychical Research who had spent years investigating the case and filed formal written reports. Eisenbud was skeptical, but he agreed to meet Serios personally in Denver in 1964. One session, just to see. That afternoon, Ted Serios produced an image that Eisenbud could not ignore. What came next was one of the most rigorous paranormal investigations in American history. Between 1964 and 1967, Eisenbud conducted more than a dozen controlled experiments. The witnesses were not believers or enthusiasts. They were psychiatrists, physicists, engineers, professional photographers, people trained to detect fraud. And most of them signed formal statements, saying they had witnessed something for which they had no rational explanation. Ted Serios always worked the same way. He would hold a small, rolled paper tube, which he called his gizmo, aimed at the lens of a Polaroid camera. He would concentrate, shout for someone to trigger the shutter, and then everyone would wait through that suspended minute of Polaroid development, watching the image slowly rise from the chemistry of the paper. And the images rose. Buildings Serios had never visited, streets and cities he had never seen. In one session, a doctor's daughter asked him to try photographing a building at the University of Rome. She had photos of the university inside a folder, across the room, away from Serios. He had never been to Europe. The Polaroid that emerged was blurred, distorted, but structurally coherent with one of the buildings in her folder. Eisenbud documented more than 400 photographs of this kind. He called the phenomenon thoughtography, and then Dr. Eisenbud published a book. In March of 1967, The World of Ted Serios was released by William Morrow and Company. The scientific world responded with fury. Life magazine ran a feature. Researchers across the country demanded answers. And that's when things got complicated in ways no one had anticipated. In October of that same year, just 7 months after the book's release, Popular Photography published a devastating article. Two professional photographers who were also amateur magicians, Charlie Reynolds and David Eisendrath, claimed to have spent a weekend with Serios and Eisenbud. They said they watched Serios hiding something inside the paper tube. Something small. A miniature photographic transparency, which, when positioned in front of the lens at the right moment, would produce exactly the kind of blurred image Serios always generated. James Randi, the most famous debunker of the 20th century, reproduced the trick in a laboratory and said it was simple. Serios never appeared in public again. He vanished, disappeared back to Chicago, back to anonymity, back to whiskey bottles and cheap rooms. He died in 2006, without fortune, without fame, never having directly answered the accusations. And Dr. Eisenbud, he didn't back down a single inch. Until his death in 1999, Eisenbud continued to defend Ted Serios publicly, in writing, in lectures. He challenged skeptics to reproduce the same images under the same controlled conditions, with independent witnesses, no access to the camera. No one accepted the challenge on those exact terms. The complete archive of experiments, photographs, VHS recordings, signed statements from doctors and physicists was donated to the University of Maryland, Baltimore County, where it remains today, stored as evidence of something that science doesn't know how to classify. And here is the question we promised you at the beginning, the one that has gone unanswered for 60 years. If Ted Serios was a fraud, how did a drunk bellhop with no training in illusion systematically deceive physicists, engineers, and psychiatrists for 3 years, across dozens of experiments where the control conditions grew progressively tighter? And if he wasn't a fraud, what exactly was happening when that man stared into a camera and images of places he had never seen came out the other side? The photographs exist, the signatures exist, the archive exists. And the answer, to this day, does not.